This past summer, around July, I noticed a dramatic shift in my reality. Almost as if a veil was lifted and the illusion of what I thought was best for me was dispersed. Everything from my personality to my income to my sense of fulfillment radically changed for the better. As I started to analyze what changed, I came to the conclusion that it wasn't so much what I was doing differently as it was what changed in my surroundings. Specifically, the people I chose to spend my time with. This might sound crazy to a lot of you, but in many ways, coronavirus was a blessing for me. Not only was I thrown out of a relationship that was no longer good for me at the start of the pandemic, but also I had to spend this grieving time completely alone. And I had no one to turn to help me through probably the most depressing period of my entire life, and that caused me to reevaluate my entire present situation. No, it didn't cause me, it forced me to reevaluate this. Although this isn't a video on how I got through my breakup, I do think that it played a crucial role in the change in my environment. So let me clarify this. Before Corona, my usual weekly schedule looked something like this. 3 to 4 days spent with my ex-girlfriend, 2 to 3 days spent with my friends, and then 1 or 2 days a week my ex and I would go out with my friends to a bar or event. It was something along the lines of that nature, and I remember during this time I was only editing 1 video a week, and I spent a lot of my time smoking weed and just playing video games. Before you get mad at me, I'm not saying these things are always gonna be bad. Let me explain. During this time, I remember knowing in the back of my mind that the reality that I was living right now was not the best for me, but being the human being that I am, I resisted any sort of change. In the back of my mind, I always knew that I am the people and places I surround myself with the most, but the one excuse I would always use in my head was something along the lines of, well, yeah, I may go over to my buddy's house almost every other day and smoke weed and play video games, but I'm still getting work done and my business and brand is still growing. So that whole "you are who you spend the most time with" thing doesn't really seem to be true for me. What a load of shit that was. So let's fast forward a bit now, back to July. By this point, I had been alone for the majority of my time for the past 4 to 5 months. This is something that I don't think I've ever experienced in my life before. And when I got back into hanging out with people again, I was much more wary of the type of energy that I was allowing into my life and the type of situations I allowed myself to be in. That dark Corona period taught me so much about myself and what I really need, and again, it's a real blessing that that happened to me, as weird as that sounds. And it was such a blessing because it gave me possibly the most valuable lesson that I've ever gotten, and that is, do not tolerate negative people or energy under almost any circumstances. So how can you do this? Because there's a lot of people I know out there watching this video that have a lot of untapped potential that is just waiting to be brung out of them if they get themselves out of those negative energy environments and hang around those negative people. It really does bring down what you can actually achieve. And I'm gonna repeat myself here, but you are absolutely the 5 people you choose to spend the most time with. So this is why you need to be so wary and so sensitive to these people. So first we have to know what is negative energy, how can we identify it, and how can we identify it within people. Personally, for me, I find it very easy to catch someone's vibe. You know, you feel the vibes of a party, like a lot of people during parties, they say, vibes are off here, man, we gotta go. I feel that within circumstances and within individual people too. And an easy way to judge this is just to put yourself with that person or people or situation and take account of how you feel before you get into that certain situation and after. Did it bring you a lot of energy? Did it fill you up with a lot of happiness, and did it make you inspired and motivated to want to do more? Or do you feel worse after doing that activity or hanging out with those people? It's pretty much that simple. A lot of the times we know this, but we do what I did and we kid ourselves and we say, this isn't really affecting me as much as I think it is, because it can be the most subtle of things when you're in a negative environment or situation or hanging around with those people for so long that you won't even notice the type of impact it's having on you, especially if you've been doing the same things over and over like I was, or making excuses about it. But even if you aren't making excuses about it, it's hard to identify that when you're stuck in the same routine for so long, and you don't want to break out of that routine because, you know, humans hate change, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings by not hanging around them or going to the things that they want us to go to anymore. And I understand that. For a long time, that was me. I would let my friends peer pressure me into going to parties and other places, going out that I didn't want to go to, that I know wouldn't make me happier and that I know wouldn't be a good time for me, and yet I still did it. So if you are battling these types of situations right now, please just overpower that feeling of the guilt you feel when your friends peer pressure you, or you think like your friends aren't going to like you as much if you don't go to this party or certain situation. That's not going to be the case. In a lot of my videos, I explain the benefit of being mysterious and not coming around as often. When people see you less often, they actually value you more. So don't think that if you don't come around as often that your friends are going to drop you and they're going to say, who cares about this kid? Because every person I know who's like left my hometown and then come back, like every time they do that and they come back and I see them again and I was best friends with them, I'm like, man, I am so excited to see this person. So make sure when you're about to do something with your friends or go over to your friend's house, make sure that this is something that you genuinely want to do. It doesn't always have to be something productive or to better yourself, obviously. Make a conscious effort to realize that this is not going to be good for you, and then work towards creating an environment and replacing that old environment with it. And this is really the first step. It doesn't have to be with new people during this step. You just need to have a new place to develop yourself, and that may be alone in your house. I know that that sounds really tough because your friends make you feel validated. It makes you feel like you are something, but it is so much better to not have that feeling of validation than to go to friends or other people's houses and situations that are obviously not going to be good for you in the long run. What I want you to do is I want you to write down the 5 people that you spend the most time with. This is a great exercise, and go through that list, and I want you to ask a few questions for each of these people. The first question I want you to ask is, does this person make me feel better about myself when I'm around them? Then I want you to ask, how does this person feel about bettering themselves on a daily basis? Are they into that? And then ask, does this person usually talk about positive things going on in the world and have a very optimistic view of the world and hopes for better things to come and knows that there's better things coming? Or does this person talk about how awful their life is, how they're the victim, how they don't like anything going on? And with those questions, you should be able to get a good grip on what this type of person is really like, and if they're really good for you, and if they're really good for anyone to be around, honestly. And I do want to stress again that not everything has to be transactional. You don't only have to hang out with people that are trying to better themselves and better their life, but like let's just face it, guys. If you're hanging around with negative people who like shit on people, who cause drama, who talk shit about other people, and who have a very negative, pessimistic view on the world, it's going to affect you no matter what. Now comes the hard part, the separation from these people that you see all the time, that you do really like, but you just know that you can't keep hanging around with them if you are going to reach your full potential. This requires you to not be too nice. Like, you have to be firm with them. You have to set boundaries with them. And you can do this very subtly in a way where they don't even really notice if you just stop hanging around with them as much. If you start saying no more often to them wanting to hang out with you, they might not even notice that you're trying to set boundaries with them and that you're not trying to hang around with them as much. And that's really good. That'll be like the easiest way to do it. And another thing that really helped me was realizing that it's not my job to save them. To the people that I used to hang out with that don't really have much going on in their lives, or just are pretty stagnant and complacent and negative about the world, it's not your job and it's not my job for me to say things to get them out of that place. What I've learned over the years is that for the majority of people, they have to do the work themselves. They have to do that deep work within themselves to change their habits and their beliefs and what they do on a regular basis. There's only so much that I can do, and I'm not gonna stick around and tolerate this negative energy and try to use up all my energy trying to fix them. And make sure that these boundaries that you set are explicit. Make sure that you know, like, you have something written down, like, I'm only gonna hang around this person one time a week now, or one time a month now. When it becomes explicit, it's a lot easier if it is written down to follow that boundary. I talk a lot on this channel about your subconscious mind and how that pretty much runs 99% of all of your decisions and actions in your life without you even controlling it or knowing it. If you spend a lot of time in your room, make it a place that where you walk in, it makes you feel happier. The vibes are good, the colors are there. Like, even the colors, yes, the colors, like colors you like, put them in your room. Get the aesthetic going. I know how much these things can have an impact on your subconscious. Get plants in your room, for God's sake. I don't have any, but I really should. My room is actually a terrible example of what I'm preaching here. See, I need to do some of the things that I talk about in my videos. And lastly, I want to go over a meditation practice that I've used in the past that has really helped me to remove toxic energy from my life, whether that's a person, whether that's a thing, whether that's a thought. This is what I would do during this type of meditation. During this meditation, I want you to imagine this thing or thought in front of you, and imagine that this thing or thought is tied to you by some sort of thread. You can tie it to pretty much anything on you. I choose my heart usually, trying to picture that. And once you have a good picture of this in your head, I want to imagine you untying it, letting the thread loose, dropping it, and just letting that thing or thought drift away. You have no idea how much everything surrounding you affects your perception of yourself. So please practice these things, and I hope that this video helped you. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you're new here, I'm Cole Hastings. I make videos about self-help and fitness. I hope that this helped you, and I hope that you subscribe if you aren't already. I'm gonna head out, guys, and I hope that you have a very less toxic day. So have a good one. I love you.